Hi everyone, welcome on in. I am Paige the Witch, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Last of Us TV series, kind of in comparison to the game that I just played through. I have a couple thoughts I'd like to share, and it's something that we've been talking a little bit about on my streams and the uploads here on YouTube. So, with that said, let's get right into it. First, my overall thoughts. I liked it. I enjoyed the show. I thought it was a fantastic adaptation, like a lot of other people. I really just enjoyed watching it. That said, I wanted some more infected, of course. And there were just a couple key little things that they changed that I'm not entirely sure why they changed. I think that there were a lot of great additions to the show, and obviously there has to be, a different format adapting a game into a show. Like you have to show things a little bit differently. Okay, we have a cat showing his tail. Thank you. Um Episode 1, so we're introduced to Joel and Sarah, and we know how the beginning of the series starts. The outbreak happens. I liked that they added a little bit more backstory at the beginning. It was pretty subtle. I liked that. I didn't like that Sarah, as like what she's supposed to be, like an 11-year-old girl, went out in the middle of the night to go walk outside when she can't find her dad and go walk into the neighbors. Like, I don't care how safe you think you are with your neighbors. Why is why is she walking outside at night? I feel like that should just be like a general rule. Like maybe we don't do that. But that was just my opinion. Regardless, it was okay. I'm happy that she ended up back with Joel and everything. I kind of wish that they had gone with like the zombie bursting through the glass door because that was an effect. But I get it. I get it. I also liked how him not getting the birthday cake and a couple other things ended up being an interesting detail with the flower and everything being infected. And then, of course, we get to the tragedy. I really liked before we get to the really tragic part. Just my one last thought. I liked the flashbacks with the scientists, but oh my gosh, that scene with Joel and Sarah, that was tough to watch. Like it was tough to watch in the game, and then it was tough to watch that acted out. They did a tragically fantastic job. So then we get to then we flash forward a little bit. Tommy lives, which is good news, And then we see Tess, right? And Joel and Tess, we can't quite figure out their relationship, right? But obviously they kind of confirm it a little bit more in the show, which I kind of did appreciate because Joel didn't really acknowledge it as much in the game. But he gets in contact with Marlene. They kind of all meet up. They kind of make things go like a little bit faster. Also, like the whole thing with, what was it, Robert and Tess. I kind of liked how they sped it up. Like I get why they did what they did. I thought it was like a good change. And then I thought it was really touching how, even though they were kind of smuggling her and everything, that Tess and Ellie kind of started to end up, Ellie really liked Tess, but then, of course, we know that Tess doesn't make it out. They changed Tess's death a little bit. I get why they did it. Okay, her death, first and foremost, it was really creepy. The weird zombie fungal kiss that like went into her mouth. That was yucky. It was really sad though. Regardless, they were both really sad. They did go for like a little bit of a different take, but I liked the shot or the scene when we're like at the end of that episode with Ellie just standing there like, okay. Ellie's actress is just absolutely killing it, by the way. She really nails Ellie's sassy attitude, which I think is very important. And then we get to the third episode, which is the Bill and Frank episode. I think they did that fantastically. That was, I think, like my favorite episode so far. And oh my gosh, I haven't cried that much at like a show in I don't know how long. Like at the end there, I loved what they did with it. I liked that we saw just like a little bit of Joel and Tess as well, because we had just lost Tess, and it was kind of nice to see like a little bit of flashback of her. And thanks for joining me, Dio. And I don't know, I liked the changes that they made instead of Joel getting there and them being alive. Like, it kind of made sense. Like, I at the end when he asked him to put the pills in his wine. Oh my gosh, and then he put them in his own wine. It was a really touching episode. So I loved that. I the slightest bit disappointed to miss out on the funny scenes between Ellie and Bill, but it was a fine trade-off, absolutely. So then we get to Kansas City in episode 4. There's the rebels and everything. And there was the brutal scene where Ellie has to save Joel, and Joel doesn't exactly say thank you at first, but they kind of end up getting through that. It was pretty similar to how they did it into the game. I was pretty happy with that. Also, Ellie's puns and everything were fantastic. Then episode 5 is another one that really stood out to me, right? Sam and Henry. I liked that they gave Henry a little bit more of a backstory, and we know why he was on his own and separated. And there were like, it kind of gave more of a reason to why so many people were trying to like hunt us down in this place versus just being like random like bandits. Like, it kind of gave more of like a reason. There was the lady Kathleen, that character that they introduced. Like, oh my gosh, she was not a likable character, but she did fantastic. Like, oh my gosh, that actress, she did great. I know, I'm sure a lot of people were rooting for her to go. And I kind of liked how they combined the sniper scene, you know, with Joel like up with the sniper gun and everything, and Ellie, Sam, and Henry down below. They kind of combined a couple different fights. And I thought that they did a pretty good job of that, because it was a couple different things, but it all meshed nicely and kind of gave the effect that they were looking for, I believe. So I liked that. And then we know how the episode like ends. We know that it does not have a happy ending. Oh, I did like that they made Sam deaf. They made him a lot younger, though, which I thought was an interesting choice. I kind of liked in the game that they were like the same age. I kind of liked the line that, like, you know, he's like, oh, I'm 14 too. And his brother's like, are you now? He's like, well, I will be in a few months. Like, that's such like a 13, 14-year-old thing to say. So I liked that line, but they went more in favor of like the younger brother that he had to like more protect. But I still thought they had like a cute relationship, and I thought it was interesting how Sam decided to tell Ellie about his bite versus the game where you just kind of like see it at the end, like after he asks all of his questions. And then Ellie like tries to like heal him with her blood, which I thought was like thoughtful, but like, oh, Ellie, I don't think that's how it works. And then, of course, it made it slightly more predictable in the morning when he woke up. But, I mean, even in the game, like, in the morning, like, I immediately knew. As soon as he said he was sleeping in late, I was like, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay. Can we say hello? There we go. Next episode was episode 6, and that's when we get over to Tommy's camp. I liked the camp option, or I liked the camp environment. It felt very like lived in. I liked the small town. It was cute. It kind of like really made it seem like there were a lot of people living there, which I don't always know if you got that sense as much in the game. Like, it's kind of more just like implied, but they kind of show you more. This was the episode that I felt maybe was just a little rushed. I think that this one could have maybe been split into 2 different episodes with like how much happened, you know. The Colorado so I felt the Colorado University scene and whole area, that part was a bit rushed. That part had like a whole elevator like fall scene and everything where like Joel and Ellie like get like super separated for the first time. I felt like they could have added that in. This was a good opportunity for them to like show a lot more infected, I felt like. and they kind of didn't take that opportunity and kind of just went more in favor of like story, which I got, but I felt like maybe we could have split that up a little bit. Because, you know, in the game, Joel falls on the piece of rebar and Ellie has to like pull him off and carry, like half carry him out to the horse, and she like tells him like, Joel, you better sing to me after this and everything. Like she has that whole line and everything. I kind of couldn't believe that they cut that out. Like they changed it a little bit. She ends up like kind of mentioning the singing later, but I don't felt like it quite had the same impact, but that's okay. And just him getting stabbed like that, it didn't have the same like, oh my gosh effect to me. I'm sure for someone who hadn't played the game, it would have just had been fine. But just for someone who had played the game, I was like, okay. The game was definitely a little bit more dramatic. And also just like how Ellie handled it and everything, it just felt like a little bit of a different tone, and they changed the tone a little bit. That was another main thing that I noticed just overall, is they made Joel more likable. They didn't make him as terrible and everything. And like when he chose to like leave Ellie and stuff, they didn't drag it out. You know, they didn't make Ellie go run off and everything in anger. Like they kind of had their relationship a little bit better and a little bit nicer sooner. It certainly took me longer in the game to like Joel than in the series, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's probably a good change and a good way to get people invested in the show, and just people really like Pedro Pascal as an actor, so like it's gonna be a little bit hard to like make him like really not likable and stuff. So like I get it, especially since like Joel said some like really some kind of messed up stuff to Ellie in the game. So I kind of appreciated that they did have a little bit of a better relationship. That was a good change. Then we get to the next episode, which is the Left Behind DLC, and that is a lot about Ellie and Riley. I liked this one a lot. I felt like it stayed pretty close to the game. It had a lot of like the same vibes. I think they might have aged up Riley slightly. She might have just been that age in the game. I didn't really catch her age as much. I didn't feel like there were enough infected in that episode, especially in like the really tragic part when she gets bit. In the game, that was like a whole like horde, and we were running, and it was really chaotic. And in the game, it was kind of just like a couple of them and seemed just more of like a dumb mistake. And that's more of the tone that they were going for. Instead of like less of like, oh my gosh, we're about to die. They went for just more of like a, oh shoot, that was dumb. Now our futures are ruined. Like, and that's not necessarily like a bad tone change. It did change that, at least for me. That's the effect that I noticed. Then we get to the David episode. So they slightly changed around the order. Like basically in the game, we'd seen the David episode and stuff first, and then she was kind of caring for, well, I guess it all kind of happened simultaneously in the game, and that's where like it's the DLC. So they kind of got to choose their episode order. So we get to David's episode. I thought the actor for David did fantastic. He looked a lot like him from the game, and just his mannerisms, his voice. I thought it was interesting that they went a little bit heavier on like the religious themes and like making him kind of weird and creepy to like his own people, and like slapping his people and stuff, like when they say something out of line, like, okay, David. They also definitely made the cannibal thing a little bit more obvious, which was scary. I mean, of course, they did not show like the chopped up person like in Ellie's room, but she saw the ear, and that was enough to have an effect. I thought that was like fantastic acting right there. David creepy is just like, ugh, gives me chills. And then they changed how the fight with David went slightly with the fire and everything. I didn't like that Joel didn't get there until after she like walked out of the building. I liked it better in the game when he like walked in there and like pulled her off of David while furiously slashing. And then they chose to not use the baby girl line, like what he called his daughter Sarah. They chose to not have him use that there with Ellie, which I thought was interesting. I kind of wish that they would have. I don't know exactly why they chose to leave that out. I'm honestly not entirely sure. Maybe it will make sense like more in the direction that I see them taking it like in the future here, but I maybe would have liked to see that. But regardless, there was definitely like connection between them, and we see their relationship, you know, get stronger. Joel starts to be a little bit nicer to her and open up a little bit more. I did appreciate that. And then we get to the finale, and honestly, I really liked the finale. I think I saw something online that people thought the finale was rushed. Out of all the things to be rushed, I don't think that was it. Just personally, as someone who recently played the game, I felt like the ending was quick. Like Joel, he goes in there, you know, like all of a sudden they take Sarah, or they take Ellie, excuse me, and Joel has to just make a decision. Like they're about to just take Ellie's entire brain. And Joel, his character is Joel the dad and stuff. And so of course he's going to go in there and he's going to stop at nothing. I thought that they showed that it was a little bit more emotional. I like that we got to see that, you know, like on film versus just like in a game where you're just like playing in third person as your character or whatever. You can't see their face and stuff. Like we really got to see like Joel's facial expressions as he's like picking up Ellie, getting out of there. Like that was intense. That was like gripping. So I really liked that in live action. And then, you know, how he handled it with Marlene and everything. Like that's how it went in the game and all. I thought it was fantastic. And then Joel and Ellie, you know, were shown going back to Tommy's camp. And Ellie just having to accept that that's what Joel wants to tell her. And I think that Joel has just accepted, or Ellie has accepted Joel like as her father figure at this point. And so she just kind of accepts that. I don't know if she even knows that's true. She might question that someday. We might end up learning that in like in part 2 or something. I don't know. I just started that playthrough. So I guess we're going to see as we keep going, but I really liked how they ended things. I thought it was really similar to the game, and we're set up really well for a new season. So overall, I really enjoyed it. Of course, they changed a couple little things. I liked most of the things that they changed and added. It felt very immersive and emotional, and you know, you can definitely see people's faces more, and I thought that was great. So overall, would love to see some more Infected, but I thought it was fantastic. Just incredible acting, great casting, and I just cannot wait for the next season. So let me know if you guys agree or disagree with any of these things that I've said. I'm really interested to know your guys' thoughts as well, and thank you guys just for being here. My playthrough of part 1 is up already, and part 2 will be up soon. So let me know. Thank you guys for being here.